Hey guys, it's Justin again with episode 9 of the start to finish. So far we've covered everything from snap building the model to modifications to priming your frame, or priming and painting your frames, painting metallic colors. So what's next is, we did the pilot as well. So what's left is armor pieces. I'm going to try to get all of this done in one video. That way it doesn't go on too long. I like to do this one color at a time. My method has changed quite a bit since when I started. But what I like to do is separate everything by the color that I'm going to paint it. And since these are out of box colors, I'm just going to paint everything that is out of box. So I don't really need to do a whole lot in the way of masking or anything like that. Just need to separate everything and get all the colors out that I'm going to be painting. Now, typically I either start with the reds or the yellows. Red because that's where the feet are, so I can start assembling. Or yellow because yellow is really hard to paint and really annoying. As far as getting nice looking coats and all that. One more in there. Okay, so for reds. Reds are probably one of my favorite colors to paint. There's a nice wide range of reds available by a lot of different paint manufacturers. I think Mr. Color has 4 or 5 different reds, just non-metallic standard gloss reds on their own, and they all look really nice. What I've sprayed so far. When I shade my reds, I shade using brown. A lot of people like to use black. I don't understand that, but I'll shade all these lines and stuff with brown, and then I'll go over with a coat of red and just kind of blend it in until I'm happy. I'm going to go back and mask off some of these details on the bottom of the foot. That way that's all showed off. I think that's all the masking I'm going to have to do on these pieces. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Blues are pretty easy as well. I love painting blue. With blue, you typically either layer blue on top of darker blues, or you can shade with purple. Pretty common stuff. Really easy, really straightforward. It looks really nice. It adds quite a bit of depth to the blue, and I think blue is actually my favorite color to paint, besides red. Yellow, I use orange, and then I will shade, or I will blend everything with a yellow orange instead of using straight yellow. It's a little too bright. It just looks nicer, I think. And then whites, I will shade my lines using dark blue, and then I'll blend everything with white with a dot or two of blue in it, just to kind of shift it a little towards what I want. Sometimes you might want to put yellow in depending on what you're painting. It all depends on what you want your final product to look like. But entirely, you don't even have to shade at all if you don't want to. If you don't want to shade, you can skip the whole pre-shading parts of the video and go straight into the base coating parts of this video, where it's just going to be laying paint down, and that's pretty much what I've covered so far anyway. So I mean, you can kind of just take it from here and fill in all those colors yourself. But I'm going to make a cut here, and I'm going to go to the paint table. It's probably going to be a little quiet. It's probably going to be a fast forward for the sake of time, but all I have to do now is paint the colored pieces. So I will be back. Okay, before you can start spraying your paint, you're going to need to thin it down. 90% of the paints that are out there don't come pre-thinned. The Alclad stuff comes pre-thinned. You can thin it down more. They sell their own thinner. But a majority of colored paints don't come pre-thinned. There's a handful of suppliers out there who offer pre-thinned, but it costs more and you're getting less technically, because I could use this to fill this up twice, and this is like $3. So the things you're going to need for this, obviously paint. You're going to need something to put your paint in. I like to thin my paint down in batches, so typically I don't do a whole lot of mixing. Every once in a while I will. Usually I just use straight out of the bottle because I get decent enough results anyway. But I will mix this up in this. You get a paint stir, and you're going to need thinner that matches your paint. Now you don't have to use the same brand, you just have to use the same type. So if you didn't want to go out with Mr. Color Thinner, you can use hardware thinner. It's a little stronger, so you might want to use less of it. But you know, you'll figure it out. It's pretty much a no-brainer. So first thing you want to do is open up your bottle, get that ready, and I'm going to use a pipette for this. You can use a toothpick, you can use whatever, but well, actually I'm not going to use a pipette yet. The paint it's there, but it's not mixed up properly. What happens is the longer paint sits, the pigments kind of collects down here, and then the rest of the stuff, the binder and the other stuff, floats to the top. So I'm going to get my paint mixer. You can also use a toothpick, you can use whatever. You can just shake the bottle for like an hour, literally, but I'm going to use this. I'm just going to mix it up nice and good, make sure that everything is really well mixed. And this shouldn't take too long. I try to touch the bottom and the sides a little bit to get any of the stubborn stuff that's collected. And this is easier to do with colors because the paint pigment itself will also separate typically, so you can see the other pigments down at the bottom, and it makes it easier to tell if it's mixed properly. Like this blue, for example, there's a little bit of white down there on the bottom. But basically, I'm going to take this and I'm going to fill it to the 10. I usually mix my paint around a 50-50, and then I play with it from there until I get the consistency that I want. So I'm going to fill this to the 10, and this is actually pretty thin on its own. It's not as thin as I want it, but it's pretty thin. A little more. There we go. And I put the lid back on this so that it doesn't dry out. Alright, now typically, as a rule, you don't want to stick to a ratio when you're mixing paint or when you're thinning paint. I mean, you can. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the brand and how well it's thinned and all that good stuff. But typically, you want to be able to drag the paint up the side and it leave a little bit. So you can see that right there. 50-50, nice and thin. It's about where I want it. I could probably thin it a little bit more, but this is fine for what I need. Again, white is incredibly difficult to thin. It's incredibly difficult to spray, and you'll see that in a little bit. But the next thing is to cap it up, make sure it's good, ready to go. And I'll take a piece of masking tape, put it across this, and write down the part number. This one is 107 character white. And then, you know, it'll be ready to go. So, that's that. Let's get spraying. Okay, so, I didn't mention this in the first part of the video, but all these parts are going to be primed in gray. So that's where we're going to start. I talked about what I'm base coating with, what I'm shading with. So reds are going to be done with Mr. Colors 22 Dark Earth. I've thinned this down a whole bunch, and I'm spraying it somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 psi. So I'm going to make a cut, and we're going to paint. Okay, so once all your pieces are pre-shaded, which again, if you don't want to do this, you can skip the pre-shading step and you can skip right into this step. If you don't want to pre-shade, yeah, just do that. But if you do want to pre-shade, you want to try and hit all your lines. You want to hit and try and make things as even as possible. And you want to build that color up just a little bit so that it shows through. I like to hit all the edges, especially the hard edges where the part ends and around panel lines, but then there's also like smaller, softer edges that you can hit a little lighter. Now I'm gonna do this the way that I pre-shade, but if you're not pre-shading and you just want to base coat your colors, you're literally just going to lay the paint on in 2 to 3 layers till you get a nice vibrant color that you're happy with, and that's going to be it. But with shading, it's a little bit trickier. You just want to lay on thin coats and build up those layers so you can still see the edges just a little bit. This is going to be a subtle job, but I'm going to try and show it the best I can. So for this, you literally just and that's 2 really thin layers. You can still see the brown poking through, but that's fine. See, that's what it would just look like base coated. But I want to hide this brown a little more, so we're going to hit it with another layer. And that should be sufficient. I'll show you on another piece, and then we will speed through this. If I can get this piece. There we go. I like to work with the, there we go. And also notice that I never stop the airflow. I keep the air going constantly, because if you let the air go, that causes paint to dry and build up in the tip, and that can affect things. When you go lay over another base coat, you can start getting spattering and stuff like that, and that's just not something you want on your model kit. So I'm going to make a cut. We're going to do a fast forward run of this and finish the reds up, and then we'll come back with some more stuff. So well, I was working, and I, as you can see, was pre-shading this piece, and I dropped it, and I got fingerprints all over it, and the paint started messing up. So I figured this is as good a place as any to show you what you need to do when you mess up a piece. Most people think that, oh, I can just paint over it, it'll be fine. No, that's actually going to add texture, and if you keep your thing glossy, you'll see that when you're done. So what I do is I take my messed up pieces or anything that I need to repaint, and I put it in this purple power, which I need to switch out, but it'll be fine for this. This is just purple power. It's only a little bit of it, but I'm gonna let that sit while I'm at work tonight. And when I come back, I should be able to get that off with a toothbrush. So I will show you that process as well. I'll come back, I'll do that, and then we will speed through painting the rest of these pieces. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, so after you've let your piece soak for a little while, go ahead and get it out of the purple power. You're gonna have something like that. You should be able to just rub the paint right off with a toothbrush, and it actually seems to just be taking the paint off and leaving the primer, which is, well, awesome. But for the sake of everything, I'm going to be repriming this. I'll probably sand this down and make sure that it's nice and clean. But yeah, so I mean, that's basically all you got to do. And if you mess a piece up, it's not a big deal. It's really easy to fix. It can be annoying if it happens, multiple times, but unfortunately, we can't always be perfect, and we can't always get it right on the first go. But if you want good looking results, sometimes you gotta go the extra mile, I guess. So that's basically good as new. Just hit that with another layer of primer and you won't even know that anything happened. Alright, so we'll come back and we'll paint all the other colored pieces, and we're going to do that in fast motion so we don't turn this into a 28-minute video or something crazy like that. It's probably going to be kind of long anyway, but no need to make it longer than it needs to be. So we'll come back and we'll look at the final pieces when everything's all done. Alright, so once you've finished all of your painting, you want to go ahead and apply a gloss coat to everything. And you can see here that these are nice and really glossy. Some might have a little bit of peel on them, or they look like they have a little bit of orange peel. I don't think I have any examples. No. But, you know, you basically want everything nice and glossy. So, this is the last of the painting stuff. All that's left now is detailing. Details, decals, and all that good stuff. So the next couple videos are going to be a little shorter, but we're going to start getting into the final touches of the kit before, you know, we final assemble everything and get into taking pictures and stuff like that. So the next video is going to be on one of the most tedious parts of the entire process, just because it takes so long, especially with master grade kits, but depending on what you're working on, it might not take so long, but you still want to expect to invest a little bit of time into this, and that's panel lining. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Later.